But I hated how that was received for everyone. That sucks.
Well, it was made into something.
It was just made into something that was so crazy and ridiculous that just didn't have to be.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry lied. Not for the first time, but this time publicly, in terms of Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party.
They didn't get caught by paparazzi. They got caught by the Kardashians. And in Hollywood, that's the one family you never try to out-edit, outspin, or outlie. This story doesn't explode with sirens or lawsuits. It bleeds out slowly, awkwardly, and publicly. Because this time the receipts didn't come from tabloids or palace leaks. They came from a family that documents every breath, every blink, every smile, and never forgets. It starts with a party that was never supposed to become a scandal. Kris Jenner's 70th birthday, Jeff Bezos' mansion. Not just a house, a social checkpoint. You don't wander into a place like that. You're vetted, approved, expected to be seen. And there they were, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, smiling, posing, standing shoulder to shoulder with the most media-trained dynasty on earth. For a brief moment, it looked like Hollywood validation had finally landed, like the inner circle doors had cracked open. Then the photos vanished. Not faded, not buried, scrubbed, deleted like the night never happened, like someone panicked and reached for the erase button too late. And that's when the real story began.
That revelation just out from the new episode of the Kardashians podcast.
Because in this town, you can't rewrite history if someone else kept the footage. What made this sting wasn't chaos, it was calm. No screaming headlines, no explosive statements, just a quiet unraveling, politely spoken, casually devastating. A few sentences on a podcast that landed harder than any press release ever could. And here's why it mattered. If you can't trust what Meghan and Harry say about a birthday party, a photo approval, a simple night out, how do you trust what they say about anything bigger? 1 second, they're posing at Jeff Bezos' place, smiling like they've cracked the code. The next, those images are gone.
They are spitting facts. They are telling the truth. And this really matters. Because if you cannot trust what Harry and Meghan say about a goddamn birthday party and a picture approval form, then how can you trust what they say about racism within the royal family?
And suddenly there's a story about consent, about permission, about forms that were allegedly ignored. A cleanup operation disguised as dignity. That line wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was bored humor. And boredom is lethal in Hollywood. Because while Meghan's team was crafting explanations, the internet was doing what it always does. Zooming in, slowing things down, rewatching, screenshotting, and that's when they noticed it. Sitting right there on Prince Harry's lapel. The poppy, a symbol you don't wear by accident. A symbol that says you know exactly what day it is. Preparation, awareness, intention, which made the sudden remembrance day pivot feel painfully awkward. The logic went like this. We weren't partying. We were being respectful. The timing was sensitive. The optics were misunderstood. But you can't claim the date slipped your mind while literally wearing it on your chest. That's not confusion. That's contradiction. And once that detail surfaced, the tone shifted. Not outrage, not fury. Precision.
I was like, we should do a full Skims campaign. Take the photo, even just us. Like, I'll shoot you at mom, post it, and then delete it like 30 minutes later. And then I say, oh, sorry, I didn't have permission to post those photos for the campaign.
You should do that.
That's what I was like, that would have hit so funny.
People stopped debating feelings and started comparing timestamps. The poppy became the silent witness in the room. And then came the quiet humiliation. Not from trolls, not from tabloids, from Kim and Khloé. On paper, it reads polite, pleasant. But if you know how this family operates, you know exactly what that means. They weren't defending themselves. They were distancing. Carefully, casually, permanently. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't accuse. They just stated facts. And facts are dangerous when someone else is spinning. No consent form, they said. No misunderstanding. Approval was given. The photos weren't sneaky, they were agreed upon, and more than that, they chose the most respectful images, the dignified ones. That word landed heavy, because it implied something else existed. Other photos the public never saw. Suddenly, the deletion didn't look like damage control by the Kardashians. It looked like mercy. In Hollywood, humor is currency. Control comes from leaning into the mess, not freezing it. Kim even floated turning the awkwardness into a joke, a playful move that would have diffused everything instantly. it was declined, and that refusal spoke louder than any statement. By shutting it down, Meghan didn't preserve dignity. She locked the tension in place. And when the Kardashians moved on without rescuing the narrative, the message was clear. We're not protecting your story, we're protecting ours. That's when whispers started circulating. Not loudly, quietly. Industry quiet. The most dangerous kind. Off-brand. Awkward. Wrong lighting, wrong energy. Harry's body language became its own subplot. Glances, posture, moments clipped and replayed until they told a story no one could explain away. And once something becomes meme bait, no apology can save it. You delete and hope people forget. But they didn't. Because this felt familiar. Viewers didn't feel shocked, they felt déjà vu. Another carefully framed narrative cracking under scrutiny. Another emotional explanation collapsing when timelines were checked. And that's when the conversation turned darker. Not louder, colder. If someone gets caught lying about something this small, what else did they exaggerate? What else was shaped? What else was framed for effect? This wasn't about a party anymore. It was about pattern recognition, bold claim, emotional framing, pushback, partial walk back, silence. And this time, the setting made all the difference. This wasn't the British press. This was Hollywood. A place that doesn't care how you feel, only how difficult you are to work with. That's why there was no outrage. There was caution, private texts, closed-door conversations, invitations that suddenly didn't arrive. Because credibility in this town isn't taken away publicly, it's withdrawn quietly, and once that happens, the damage is already done. The silence afterward was louder than the scandal itself, because once Hollywood stops reacting, it isn't confused, it's finished. What people missed at first was how fast the temperature dropped. No follow-up explanations, no friendly clarifications. No soft PR saves. The Kardashians didn't circle back to smooth things over. They didn't patch the optics. They didn't protect the narrative. They simply moved on. And in their world, that's a verdict. Because the Kardashians don't run on loyalty. They run on leverage. Kris Jenner isn't just a mother or a manager. She's a strategist. She watches how people behave when things get uncomfortable. She clocks who laughs things off and who panics, who adapts, who freezes. And that night didn't generate value. It generated friction, so the calculation shifted. Kim and Khloé didn't rush to clean it up because cleaning it up would have meant absorbing someone else's chaos. Instead, they let the moment sit exactly where it landed. Because authenticity, even messy authenticity, is their currency. Spin isn't. That was the misread. Hollywood today isn't impressed by titles. It's impressed by fluency, knowing when to lean into the awkward, knowing when to joke. Knowing when not to lock the room down with lawyers and statements. The Kardashians built an empire by surviving cringe. They turned missteps into content. Meghan tried to freeze the narrative, and all it did was make it heavier. This wasn't rejection, it was deprioritization. And in a city fueled by relevance, nothing cuts deeper than being quietly moved out of focus. While that recalibration was happening in Los Angeles, a very different response was taking shape across the Atlantic. This one didn't involve podcasts, or deleted posts, or emotional reframing. It involved preparation. Reports surfaced that Prince William had brought in top-tier crisis PR, not to fight a headline, but to anticipate what comes next. That detail slid by quietly, but it mattered more than any statement ever could. Because you don't hire that level of expertise unless you expect turbulence. This wasn't about punishing anyone, it was about containment. Events like the Invictus Games suddenly took on new weight. Optics mattered, timing mattered, margin for chaos shrank, the patience for unscripted drama expired, and the contrast was brutal. One side was scrambling to explain a deleted Instagram post. The other was building long-term walls. No emotion, no counter-narrative, just structure. That's how institutions protect themselves. They don't argue with stories, they prepare for consequences. And when even family starts planning around you instead of with you, the message is unmistakable. The issue isn't what you'll say next. It's how much damage control others feel they need to do before you even arrive. That's when this stopped being about a birthday party. It became a turning point. Two worlds collided. One built on narrative control, interviews, emotion, selective framing. The other built on documentation, timing, and knowing when to say absolutely nothing. And the winner was obvious. Because power in 2026 doesn't belong to whoever cries loudest. It belongs to whoever doesn't need to explain. That's the exposure here, not humiliation. Exposure to how fast protection disappears when credibility slips, how quickly access dries up, how doors don't slam, they just stop opening. People started noticing the pattern again. Invitations that once felt inevitable quietly vanished. Appearances that were rumored never materialized. Names that used to be floated together suddenly weren't. Hollywood didn't exile Meghan and Harry, it simply stopped prioritizing them. And that's worse, because outrage still keeps you relevant. Indifference erases you. Meanwhile, online, the reaction sharpened. Not louder, sharper. Viewers weren't debating anymore. They were comparing past interviews, old statements, familiar emotional beats. It all started to rhyme. Bold claim, moral framing, pushback, partial retreat, silence, and once audiences recognize a rhythm, patience collapses. This is where trust erodes, not in one scandal, but in accumulation. Each incident alone might be forgivable. Together, they form a shape people can't unsee. That's why this moment stuck, not because of a party, but because of who exposed it. Not tabloids, not palace insiders, but the most media-literate family on the planet. Calmly, politely, without breaking a sweat. They didn't accuse, they documented. And in this era, documentation beats outrage every time. Because once someone shows they'll quietly step back instead of shielding you, everyone else takes notes. That's how relevance actually dies in Hollywood. Not with a scandal, but with a pause, a gap, a silence where your name used to be mentioned. And the cruel irony is this: the Kardashians didn't hurt Meghan by speaking. They hurt her by refusing to carry the weight of her story. That's the final tell. Hollywood doesn't erase things out of kindness. It erases them for survival. And once the Kardashians stepped aside, the truth was impossible to ignore. The photos weren't deleted because rules were broken. They were deleted because the visual story wasn't saying what it was supposed to say. And once that realization hit, everything else made sense. Because image isn't controlled by what you say afterward, it's decided by what people see in the moment. And this time, what they saw didn't match the script. Didn't match the script. Didn't match the script. Didn't